Sam Steen on ARA City Radio.
So the new album, Futurology, it comes right on the heels of Rewind the Film, and of course they were all recorded at the same time. Is that right? It was the 70 songs of Hatred and Failure session or something?
It was. It was a hell of a session. So we realised halfway through that they didn't fit together, and there was a couple of late additions to Futurology where we were working up in Rockfield, but they're very different records. You know, the Rewind the Film is very gentle and delicate and acoustic, and the new record is very much post-punk European and a soundscape. So it's, we pushed ourselves as far as we could with these two records to show the schizophrenic side of the Manics, really.
Yeah, it's interesting that they were all written around about the same time, when they're so very different. And I guess they're both very different to what you'd done in the past as well. Like you mentioned, Rewind the Film was very kind of introspective as opposed to the kind of anger of the older stuff. And then this one has instrumental pieces on it when, usually you have such powerful vocals throughout your songs.
The two instrumentals on this album did want to be able to breathe a bit. Even the lyrics on this album are much more about being suited to the music rather than usually, like on Rewind the Film, there's so many, it's almost like a confessional, staring in the mirror. There's a lot of kind of hard-hitting lyrics, whereas this album is much more about motion and travel and inspiration through travel in Europe. And I think as you get older, you just realise how much you love music, and you want to kind of cram all those styles you love into your own sort of genre, really, your own being, which is we've always been sort of self-originated, and we're trying to get all the things we love into our music.
And what are the things that you love? You mentioned Europe. What does that got to do with the songs?
Well, lyrically, there's a lot of kind of artistic references from the Die Brücke movement, of German expressionism, Maleevich's Black Square from the Russian painter, Dream in a City, which is about a Welsh guy who set up the industry in Ukraine. So there's we recorded a lot of the tracks in Hansa in Berlin as well. So there's a lot of all the music we were listening at the time, obviously the classic krautrock of Neu and lots of Kraftwerk and early Simple Minds. So it just came across like we did a tour of Europe 2 years ago where we reconnected with the beauty of driving through the endless roads of Europe, and gave us a lot of inspiration. And
you mentioned early music and music that you used to listen to. Is there anything now that catches your eye or your ear even? I've seen a few quotes from you not being too kind on newer music.
I think there's always good. I think my problem is there's always good songs and there's always great talent, but there's not really great bands anymore. And that's just because I grew up loving, being obsessed with bands. I wanted to be in the Clash. I wanted to be in the Smiths. I wanted to be in the Bunnymen. I wanted to be in the Stones, but like I said, there's always a great song out there, but it doesn't really make you want to get up in your bedroom and be that person. It's just me being a bit of an old romantic, I guess.
Do you think that's because bands now, it's kind of a bit more instant? They bring a song out, it's on an advert on TV, they get the single, or people buy just singles, whereas when you guys started out, maybe even if you didn't sell enough records with the first album, you would have been dropped.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. Everything's so throwaway and cheap and branded that it's impossible for a band to develop a kind of unique style of their own. They're under so much pressure to conform to what is going to sustain them. Whereas we had a lot of faith in it. We didn't sell any records big time till our fourth album, and who's going to get that chance today? No one. But I don't actually blame the band. I don't blame anyone, really. It's just the acceleration of the digital age. I guess it's evolution.
And what do you think of that? Do you know the way bands are now out there? They're on ads and they can sell themselves on social media and Twitter and Facebook and things like that. Would that have been something that you think the Manics would have embraced if it was available at the time?
It's just such an alien world to me. We were still releasing cassette singles when we were big, as in big in everywhere. So I don't know. I think maybe Twitter would have been something we'd got into more, especially Richey. But Richey never even had a mobile phone. That kind of shows what a different era it was. Our idea of the digital age was a portable typewriter. That's what it was like back in the day.
And you kind of mentioned the fear that the bands might have now. Do you think that's because, or do you think it's because of that fear that they don't write angry songs about all the general crap that's going on everywhere? I mean, your music was kind of characterised by, against the Conservatives and against everything that was going on in the world at the time. There's a recession on now, but people aren't writing about it.
I think we always try to define ourselves as being, against certain things, because that gives you a lot of anger and a lot of energy, a tremendous amount of energy, to be honest. But everyone is so scared of just saying the wrong thing in those terms of music. No one wants to be challenged lyrically. They might want to be, but everybody believes they don't. You know what I mean? And the general consensus is all so pervading that just become one hideous kind of David Guetta influenced bass drum with hideous vocals about having a good time on top. That's about the only way I can describe it.
Well, tell us about the band then that are supporting you. You've got public service broadcasting with you when you come.
They're a brilliant band, really, really idiosyncratic, really interesting, kind of really clever, point you in different directions, great use of samples and stuff. But they did some gigs with us last year on the UK tour, and real pleasure actually to have them back. Great boys as well, really old school, hard working, self-sufficient. But with a very kind of retro futuristic sound, which I'm always drawn to. On
a completely different subject, I also read that you said that you'd really like to go into the jungle. This is on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. It seems slightly at odds with any of the other interviews and comments.
I cannot remember saying, but if I did, I think it'd only be to just refuse everything and be incredibly miserable. But I'd like Sean to go in there, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Sean would be extremely good in there. He literally wouldn't speak to anyone. He wouldn't eat anything. And it would be the most situationist kind of prank ever on TV.
And are you a fan of television?
To be honest, I'd probably die without painkillers. My life just falls apart. To be honest, I don't know if I could cope for 14 days without a pen and paper.
Oh, yeah?
It's the one thing that, even in front of you, I'm talking to you now, I'm still scribbling away, writing away. I never go more than, a few hours without writing or drawing something, really. It's really, contagious, actually.
And are you a fan of television? Do you watch a lot of it?
I do.
And is that
I used to watch more, yeah, but, children came along. I love, I guess I love what I've always ever loved: music, television, books, art. I've never, I've been very blessed, and we've, made lots of money, and we've traveled the world. But when I get home, I don't drive, I don't wear jewelry. All I do is buy better versions of what I used to buy when I was 16.
What's the best thing, the thing you're most proud of that you've bought?
I guess my art collection. Something I'm really, something I do a lot. Not that I'd ever, I don't pretend I'm an artist at all. I love being in a band and I love feeling the essence of rock and roll, but I paint a lot, I collage a lot, and I try to buy and collect art as well. It's just a nice thing to do, really. Nice distraction. And
going back to television and I guess distractions as well, is that what you do when you're on tour, when you're on the tour bus? Is it watching box sets and things like that? And how has the tour bus or the touring situation changed over the years?
Well, it has changed because I think we all agree that, you used to go on tour to stay up late. But now you go on tour to have a good night's sleep. Children, it's almost like an escape. It's like, I'm going to have a night on the bank in the bed. I'm going to sleep for 8 hours non-stop. It's amazing. And I think it's kind of intellectually stimulating, really. Either just traveling, looking through a window, arriving somewhere, somewhere like Seoul or Vancouver or Zurich or Zagreb. We always walk around the city. I always got my Polaroid camera with me and take loads of pictures and try and suck up a bit. We always try and get everywhere a day before, just so we can, get a nice feel of the city, really, because there is so much taking. It's kind of real amazing pleasure of being in the band, really.
And when you come here, will it be your first time in Luxembourg?
It will be.
Oh, yeah?
I think, now I could be wrong about this, but I have a feeling we did a festival where the Velvet Underground reformed in about 93, and I think that might have been in Luxembourg.
Oh, yeah?
Definitely on the border, but I might be wrong about that. It might be Trieste. Where's Trieste?
Trieste, it's very close to Luxembourg.
Right, I think it was round there.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if it filtered over the border or we were in Trieste. I remember because we flew back from Chicago. We'd done a video for Roses in the Hospital, and we flew back, and it was a horrendously long, horrible flight. 2 changes, so we came to got there, and it was amazing seeing the Velvet, with the real lineup.
Speaking of first gigs, there's one thing I wanted to get to before we finish up, was your first gig in New Zealand coincided with the tour around that area, and Australia, which also coincidentally happened around the time of the Lions tour. I just want to congratulate you on great planning there.
It was amazing. Yeah, it was one of those once in a lifetime experiences, really, where we tried to coordinate, did gigs at the Lions, for the Lions fans and our own fans, got tickets for the games, and met all the players. It was spectacular. It was just great to be there and feel like you're part of something pretty unique that doesn't happen very often. It was a magical, and the gigs were great as well. You know, there's a lot of Australian fans there too, so it was just something we'll probably never be able to do again.
Which came first in that situation? Did you go, oh, the tour is on, let's go?
To be honest, the rugby came.
Exactly, that's what I mean. Well, you know, while we're there, we'll get a few gigs in.
Well, congratulations on winning the Six Nations for your lot as well.
Thank you very much.
Well, you sound Irish, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I am, yeah. Looking forward to the Heineken Cup this weekend. Well, you're a keen footballer, or you were certainly were in your youth. Could you give us a music five-a-side football team, please? Who's handy that you've played with?
I've never played with anyone.
No way.
Music at all. Never. I don't mix with musicians, to be honest. I'm happy talking to rugby players. They got more intelligence.
All right, then. Well, how about
musicians I've ever met? They just don't like me. Musicians don't like me. I gotta be honest with you. They don't fucking like me.
All right, Nicky. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Cheers, sir.